So we do the wrist. It's gonna take only 5-6 minutes, okay, Brutus? Nothing long, just an easy business. Yeah, let's do it. Right, so we've got the distal radial ulna. We've got connective tissue coming down from between the radius and ulna, called the interosseous membrane. The radius and ulna, as we said, articulate with each other. There's 1 degree of movement, pronation and supination. The head of ulna articulates with the ulnar notch here in the radius. It's closed inferiorly by an articular disc, separates the joint from the radiocarpal joint. It's synovial membrane. It's weak, loose, fibrous capsule, transverse bands of fibers which blend with the edges of the disc. Synovial membrane is large, extending above the margins of the capsule between the radius and ulna. There's 8 carpal bones. They're irregular. They're organized in 2 rows. So let's start from lateral to medial. So we've got escaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. Then we've got trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate with a hook. Also, just mentioned pisiform here is a sesamoid bone and originates from the flexor carpi ulnaris tendon. Proximally, escaphoid and lunate articulate with radius. The distal row, the carpal bones here, will articulate with the metacarpals. It's around here. 2 articulations that we need to know. So it's the radiocarpal joint, as we said, radius with the first row of carpals, and the midcarpal, which is the first row of carpals and the second row of carpals. The radiocarpal joint is an ellipsoid synovial joint with 2 degrees of freedom. So we've got flexion, extension, ulnar deviation, radial deviation occurring in 2 axes. Articular surfaces, so we've got the distal radius and articular disc, and distally the proximal row of carpals. The midcarpal joint, synovial condylate joint between the proximal and distal row. There's some gliding producing extension and flexion. Ligaments, we've got the ulnar collateral ligament from the styloid into the triquetrum and pisiform here, and it tells in adduction, so or radial deviation that way. We've got the radial collateral ligament, which comes from the radial styloid into the escaphoid and trapezium, and it tells in adduction or ulnar deviation that way. Then we've got strong bands of ligaments. We've got palmar radiocarpal, which is anterior, and it goes from the radius into both rows of carpals, and basically ensures the hand follows the forearm in supination. And then we've got dorsally, we've got from the radius into both rows of carpals, and its function is ensuring the hand follows the forearm in pronation. Other structures that we need to know are the flexor retinaculum, which forms the roof of the carpal tunnel. So it goes from the escaphoid and trapezius laterally to pisiform and the hook of hamate. It contains 9 tendons. So we see here, this is the carpal tunnel. It contains the flexor pollicis longus, 4 tendons, 4 flexors digitorum profundus, and 4 flexor digitorum superficialis. We've got the extensor retinaculum, which is a thickening of the deep fascia and prevents bowstringing of the flexor of the extensor tendon, and it goes from the radius to pisiform and triquetrum. It goes that way, there, all the way there. Nerve supply, we've got median through the carpal tunnel. we've got a radial nerve, ulnar nerve, and blood supply, we've got radial artery, ulnar artery, and we've got at the end we've got deep pulmonary arch supplying with oxygenated blood to the wrist and fingers.